Okay.
All right, we are live. We did it. All right, move over here. Dr. Falú, we did it. Oh my goodness.
We did it. We did it. That's constancy. I even took
All righty. Come on in, people. Oh my goodness. Come on in. It's good to see everybody coming in. Thank you. Thank you. We had some technical difficulties again. These were different ones, but that's okay because your girl Booster Shot figured it out. And I have with me today Dr. Georgina Falú. So we are still going to have an amazing time and you're going to learn a lot. Dr. Falú knows a lot. Okay, so here we go. I just want to introduce to you Dr. Falú. She has an amazing understanding of comedics, of African spirituality, Santería, Espiritu, as well as finance. And this is something that we need to we as Black people need to learn about it, know about it, teach others about it, and then act on it, right?
Definitely.
One of the focuses or foci or whatever that I had for this year was for us to learn something and then have it be tangible, and then you go do something. Okay, now today's Thursday, so this is going to air again on Tuesday. So if you don't have something to write with right now, just sit back and learn and then rewatch it. Because Dr. Falú is going to give us tangible financial tips so that we can act on it. Okay, so without further ado, Dr. Georgina Falú, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me for this very challenging opportunity. And why is it challenging? Because we need to make a resolution. All people of color need to be owners of their own land, of their own properties, of their own buildings. And there is a tenet that says that wherever we live, if we don't own it, we are not empowered. To be empowered, we have to own what surrounds us, where we are, so that we make the decisions most convenient to our communities. And if we could join together in groups, it will be more powerful than we can ever foresee. So we ask everyone to listen and interact with us with the purpose of starting taking your first steps to own, to empower yourself and your family, your community, so that the children see and hear this and start putting in their mind the tactic and objective that sooner or later they too will be owners of their own properties, of their own home, or whatever it is that they pursue. And why we start like this? Because centuries we have been demonstrating, we have been demanding, but if somebody else owns the property where we live, where we work, where we study, where we go to church, they are the one calling the shots, they are the one identifying the targets. We need to make sure that we identify the targets that our community needs, targets that are convenient for the development of our own people. And history proves that unless we are at the table of the decision making, it doesn't happen. Probably most of you agreed with us in that tenet, but the question is, how do I do it? We have here at my organization, Falú Foundation, started an experiment 5 years ago. And of course, we have been in the business of helping people to be prepared and trained to get jobs. In other words, we teach them computer, we teach them English, we teach them how to write. We even work for them to dress up in a way to secure employment. But I said that's not enough. Because when we go to work to some other places where somebody else owns it and somebody else is establishing the rules of the games, we only have to follow and comply with those requirements, even if many times we can see that those are not the best policies, the best procedures, the best relationship, the best realities that could help us not only work, but grow into levels of more empowerment and more decision-making. So what we decided is not only we prepare them to go and get jobs, we want them to be owners. And so let me say this, in the last 5 years, we have helped create 52 corporations by people of color. How? One step at a time. We started with groups, we announced it, we mobilized, and some of the people who were more daring come up from, I must say, women responded very energetically. It's a pleasure when I see women coming to the group, because believe me, I know from the start that they will do what it needs to be done, and they will do it great, and they will surpass the expectations. So one of the things that I always say in the first workshop is, please trust me, follow the guidance, follow the steps that we consider necessary. And little by little, you will find yourself transformed to levels that you never foresee. So what is this we're talking about? We're talking of enterprises. And enterprises are either businesses or nonprofits. And of course, there is a set of enterprises which are the credit unions, the cooperatives. I'm emphasizing either corporation, nonprofit, or businesses. Because what I do is not theory. I don't want you to learn stuff that you go and repeat. I want you to be prepared from day one to start doing what is required for you to own. And a first step is to understand the concepts, and not a lot, because, for example, I have my doctorate in finances of nonprofit. Of course, that was like 8 years, and I have a master from business from Berkeley in accounting. That was 2 other years, and I have a diploma from Harvard. That was 2 years. Yes, that's theory, but I might not be able to organize any enterprise at the end of all those years unless I start taking the steps to do it. So the people that come to the workshop, we start on the first day. I give them tips to bring a group of people that they're going to be working together, 4 or 5. I usually emphasize 5 people. And then I tell them, get people that you know will follow you, people that will work and will not get tired, people that even confronting problems will go around those problems and continue pursuing the objective that you set up to do for yourself. And the first discussion that we do is, well, let's differentiate between for-profit enterprises and not-for-profit enterprises. And listen, this might sound simple, but even the industry, the banks are all confused. They are very clear about businesses they establish to make profit. Fine, I don't find any objection to that. But in reality, I feel that even those enterprises that are set up to make profit are doing a service, because they are offering to you products that otherwise you have to travel too far to acquire, or send in the mail, which will take weeks and sometimes months. So the businesses also do a service to the community. But definitely one objective is to make profit. And we define profit. And it's very simple. If somebody costs $80 and you sell it in $100, you have there $20 profit. Now, I am an accountant by training, and usually accounting is the field that flunk most people in the business school. I was also the first woman dean of the business school in Puerto Rico. That there were 3,500 students there and 175 faculty members. And some of the professors told me, listen, I think you're explaining too easy, because the students are rumoring that if they want to learn, to go with Falú. But if they want to get good grades, don't take her. And I said, well, listen, don't believe what the students say. What I am interested is that people understand in simple terms, because it could be simple, what they're doing.
Okay. Dr. Falú, I just want to jump in and ask, is it possible for you to turn the volume up a little louder?
Aaron, can you turn the volume more up? The volume.
And the other question is, can you explain or let us know at some point when you hold these workshops, how many workshops are there, the cost and stuff like that? So maybe after you're done explaining them, or explain what happens in it, but if you could just let us know those logistics as well. Oh no, please don't be frozen. Oh no. Hold on, let's see if she's the guest. She's coming right back, you guys.
Actually, I advertise in the community. Do you want to organize your own nonprofit corporation? Do you want to organize a business? Yes, they tell me. I choose those people that tell me, yes, we want to. Okay, let's agree on a date and a time. And at least I say, if you want to organize, let's say, a nonprofit corporation, I need you to find 2 or 3 people that will work with you, 4 or 5 as a minimum. And I take that group, and that group comes, and I work with that group. It's not lecturing. It's not 20 people or 30 people. No, it's working with that group, because what we do is we start preparing their organization, their enterprise, their corporation that day. When they decide to come, I study who are the people, and I tell them, try to find one that is good in the writing. That would be good for secretary. One that will be good with numbers. That will be the treasurer. And you are the one of the idea. You are the president. You're the main motor. You are the one that nothing happens unless you are there working with it. And many times that's a key for success, because these people already are motivated, that they want to do their corporation or their business. They are determined to continue no matter what the difficulties. Then I do the first meeting, but it's not a meeting to teach. It's a meeting for them to start working in their corporation or their enterprise or their business. They start doing things in that meeting. What happens is mix, that they understand the concepts while they are doing it. In other words, they will be understanding. You were talking of a nonprofit. What is a nonprofit? There's a lot of differences between a corporation, nonprofit, and a business. Even you go to the bank don't know. The bank one time tell you, oh no, you're nonprofit, we cannot lend to you. But when they're going to charge you, you are business. This is the amount you have to pay. Say, but you told me you can lend me because I'm nonprofit. How come now for charging me, you're charging me even though the industry is confused, simply because what they guide them is to make the maximum for you to pay the maximum possible, not to work fairly with the type of enterprise that you are developing. You have to know those concepts. So you tell them what it is that is correct, what it is that is wrong, and what it is that you need, and you want it now the way you need it. And from the very beginning, I work with them to be forceful, to believe in who they are, because I have that, believe me, one difficulty for them to believe that they are developing a corporation, that they are president of a corporation. Their mind, the society has worked on us so strongly to make sure that we feel we cannot be in charge. So I'm telling you, in developing enterprises and empowerment, the first thing I work in people believing that they can be empowered and they could be in charge, and they have to believe it strongly to make sure to insist and fight for what it is you feel you need.
Okay.
So that happens in the first meeting. So in that first meeting, we are developing the different pieces of the enterprise, but at the same time, I'm working in their understanding the concept, understanding the difference between one corporation versus a partnership versus a nonprofit versus a just society. And once they understand that, and they have decided, okay, we're going to go for, let's say, a corporation nonprofit, if they decide to do that. The other misunderstanding we clarify is people call it non-profit. So does that mean there's no profit? No, that's wrong. There is profit in non-profits. There is profit in non-profit. What is the
There is
main
profit in nonprofit.
Yeah, the main difference is in the business there are owners. People are owners. When the profit is made, they distribute those profits to themselves, which is all right because they develop a business for that purpose. In a non-profit, there is profit, but there are no owners. No one is owner of that entity. The entity exists to service the community. That's why the government, to those nonprofit corporations, give them tax exemption for life. And I clarify that and explain it over and over and over, because it's not a simple thing that you are exempt for all the life of the entity of the corporation. Could mean millions of dollars eventually when you're doing big in your corporation. Why the government exempt nonprofits? Because you're doing some of the work that the government is supposed to do. You're doing services like daycare, or you're doing services like services to senior citizens, or you're doing services of health orientation, or you're doing services or helping the community how to access some of the services in government. There are thousands of nonprofits serving different services and different groups. I'm going to tell you one thing, however. We in our community know that those companies exist, but most of the time, we're not the one in charge. And you might say, but you said there's no owner. Yeah, it's true, there's no owners, but we could be in charge determining what are the services that our community really need. Who in the community should receive those services? And you find communities that even though millions of dollars come to that community, somebody else is leading the decision making. And who's working in those institutions? Their families, their friends, the people that they favor. And you know that in speaking of people of color, for example, if you go to some of the colleges of City University, you see over 80% of the students Black or color people, and over 90% of the faculty white. You should be asking, why is this happening? Why? All colleges and universities that are public are nonprofit institutions. There are nonprofit institution colleges, there are nonprofit institutions hospitals, there are nonprofit institutions museums, there are nonprofit institution galleries, and we, the community, can organize nonprofit corporations. We have organized 54 of them. And in that first meeting, we go through the basic decision making. What is one of those basic decision making? Appointing the officers, meaning president, treasury, and secretary. Those are the first three most important. Of course, if you grow, you can go to have 20 officers or 50 officers. That's as you go year after year. For example, my organization is a non-profit corporation and has operated 33 years in El Barrio, in East Harlem. But from the very beginning,
That's
of course,
great.
I am accountant by training, so I have the guidance of my professional expertise guide me. Because believe it or not, nonprofit institution, if you don't have people there that know accounting, know finance, and know what decisions are making, very soon you're going to close. And you might say, but how come at the beginning they have money to pay accountants and finance? They don't have to pay full-time employees. They can only, let's say, gather themselves 2 or 3 corporations, know a person that is expert in accounting or finance or technology computers, and contract with that person to give you several hours a week. But you have to make sure that from the very beginning, you have an accounting system established, you have a financial decision-making plan in place, and you have technology, because nowadays you know that you cannot work without computers, especially this COVID process that we have gone through. where most of everything is done through computers. So you yourself, the people, go and have some short training that gives you the basic of how you can work with the computer. We have here in my place computers. Actually, at this moment, we got the funding to train women in computers for free, and we're doing it through Zoom. So if any of you who are listening would like to enroll, copy my number, my telephone at the end, and I send you the application, and we start training you little by little through Zoom. Because that's one thing that I want to emphasize. Because I'm an accountant, I know that we're talking of complex schemes. It's not easy, but we explain it in terms of steps to be done. I, for example, give them a page of steps that they will do from the very beginning. For example, all the basis of accounting is the payments that you make, expenses. And you go to places and then you get receipts. Those receipts, I say from the very beginning, organize a binder. You don't have to buy anything expensive. One of those binders that cost $10 in the drugstore, you organize it by expenses categories. Advertising first because it's A, computer after because it's C, and so on and so forth. Let's say you have 20 categories. You spend money in a taxi to transportation. You spend money in paper, office supplies. You spend money in cleaning stuff, cleaning supplies. Listen, it will look simple, but it's the basis of the system that will carry you throughout the year, because at the end of the year, even though you don't pay taxes, you have to do a long report which has 13 pages called 990 to the government. And if you don't send that report, maybe 1 year you go without doing it, but the second year they start sending you letters and they could put penalties on you. You
So,
want
so
to do
doc,
it from the beginning, right? The way it is, perfect. Go ahead.
So, Dr. Falú, thank you for all of that. I can see the explanation definitely walks people through everything. And so basically, in summary, it'll be you and the people who you trust the most, 3 or 4 of you. So that would be like 5 total. Okay, 4 or 5 total. You would go reach out with Dr. Falú, tell her you'd like to learn more about how to set up a nonprofit, an LLC, a corporation, a business, whatever it is that you want. And you, your group, and Dr. Falú will have a conversation about next steps, which would be coming in, learning from her. And remember, she said in the first meeting, you guys are setting things up. So this isn't a meet and greet. We're not going to say, hi, Dr. Falú, I saw you on Tuesday Talk. You're going to organize and to assign roles and tasks and understand what you have to actually physically do to make this organization, whatever it is, to make that work. So, Dr. Falú,
I
I
want to
have a
add
question. Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
want
Go
to
ahead.
add something very important, very important. The nonprofits feed themselves with grants. From day one, you have to have your focus in those grants. There are people receiving millions of dollars in grants in our communities, not our people. Look for your congressperson, find the grants that they gave to people in your community. Many of them are millions of dollars. If your group, the color people, didn't receive no grant, you have to mobilize immediately. Because some people say, no, I don't want to do nonprofit, I don't want to beg. You are not begging. You're paying taxes in many different ways. Every time you buy something, you pay sales tax. Every time you work, you pay payroll tax. That's your money. You are just demanding that a fair share of the money that is in the budget of that city or district or state or federal government go to serve your community. It's not happening, people. And it is our responsibility to make sure that this change and that our community organization receive corresponding amounts of money based in the population, based in the number of organizations in that community, based on the need that there is in that community. We're talking of millions of people. Please mobilize and let's do it, and let's grab what corresponds to our community.
Okay, that makes sense. So part of the mobilization is knowing how much money is going into your community, but who's getting the money to focus on our community. If we're in our Pan-African Black community, then we need to be getting that. Our organizations need to get that money to serve our own community. That's what Dr. Falú was saying. And she was like, speak with your congressman or look it up. You can get wherever you are, you can get a congressperson's phone number.
That's
and
right.
ask and then start asking the questions. How much money was set aside for XYZ urban community? Who got what grants? What grants are available? Who's giving out those grants? All of those things, so that we can be effective in mobilizing ourselves to get our own money and to serve our own community.
That's right. That's right. And it is like a machine taking place. There are grants available at the council level, which is the city, at the state level, at the federal level, and even at private corporation level. So you must understand that to grab those resources, there is a kind of technical process to go about it. It's called writing proposals. They are not simple, but they are not impossible. And I guide the group after this first meeting, then I guide them from the very beginning to start writing a basic, simple proposal. Once you write the first, you write the second, you write the third, and you make sure that in every month you're sending proposals that satisfy the requirements. Because unless you throw to fish, you don't fish. You have to throw enough and grab enough so that fish come and you can get something to eat. Same thing with the proposal. You have to throw different cities, state, federal, private, to grab something that come to your organization. And once you learn how to do it, believe me, it's non-stop.
Oh, she said, once you learn how to do it, it's non-stop. I like that. I like that, definitely. So have you heard of a book called The Foundations and Grants? Are you familiar with that book?
Of course, it's wonderful. It gives you a lot of advice. It gives you information, all revolving around proposal, grants that are available, and the schedule, when to submit it, how to submit it. It's a wealth of wonderful information. And that's why, for example, when I give the papers to the group, I have changed the paper lately. I have added that in addition to president, treasurer, and secretary, one official has to come just to write proposals. And I say, pick one that know how to write English, understand English, and write well. And that person will work with the treasurer in combination so that the budget is prepared for the proposal that makes sense and that is approved. So from the beginning now, I'm trying to prepare them to immediately identify opportunities of grant. How do we prepare the proposal? When do we send it? And of course, that go pair with your program of activities. If you, for example, are servicing the senior, what are you doing? The seniors come for you to advise them. Some seniors, I have, for example, a group that walk the seniors to the government offices to request what they need. And that's, listen, very important. There are seniors that are alone, don't know how to do it, can't speak well enough, are sometimes sick. So that group do an immense good assistance. Other group, for example, like ours, is working with the group to help them organize their enterprises, to work to help them organize corporation. For example, we do part free and part with a fee. You go to a lawyer to do a corporation, is 2 steps to do the corporation. The first step is to organize the corporation itself. And then the second step to, let's say, organize and get the 501c3 status. You go to some lawyer, they'll charge you thousands of dollars. Then we charge a very low, reasonable fee because what we want is for them to do it, for the effect of those development to be felt in the community, to see the group
right
group for real, not make believe.
That's right. Get it done for real, not make believe. That's what I'm talking about, Dr. Falú. Yes. Right. That's right. Why I have Dr. Falú on. She's going to give you her phone number. Get your girls together. Get an idea. Flesh it out. Go see Dr. Falú. She's going to give you the steps to get it done. And right. She said, for real, we not talking. And when Dr. Falú and I discussed it, one of the things she said was, we have to do it. We can't be talking about it. We got to do it.
It's
and when
right.
she opened up, she's
That's
like,
it.
we demand this and we say this and that and the third, but it's just basically she was saying talk is cheap. Right? We need to
It's not
talk
lecturing.
is cheap.
It's not lecturing. It's not, for example, I tell them, you need to have a binder. When I go into the area to get them familiar with what are the expenses, okay, let's prepare the binder. In the second reunion, you show me your binder. I want to see it with the expenses classified. And if they haven't done it, no mañana. It's now.
She said, not tomorrow, ahora.
Exactly.
Ahora mismo. We doing it right now. We're going to
Exactly.
do stuff.
Exactly.
Okay. So Dr. Falú, can you also give advice on how to own your own home, especially if you don't have a lot of money or you have bad credit or no credit? How can we go about owning some property?
Wonderful question, because that's one of the most important. Actually, to the group in the first meeting, I said, start looking around. And if you see those old buildings falling apart, call immediately and find out if they're selling it. And you're gonna buy your building in the first 5 years. And they look at me, open their eyes. How? With what money? With the same money everybody buy borrowing. That is the truth. Sometimes we have the feeling that these people who own, they have a lot of money. This their own money. No, they borrow. So we have to learn the techniques. And you mentioned something that is key, which is your credit ratio, your credit history. Paramount. You don't do one step without having a credit up to standard good. You say, but how can you do it if you're limited, if you don't have cash? Listen, sometimes people in our groups owe money and people come to collect and they hide or they don't answer the phone. No, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. You have to take the first step. You know you're not going to be able to payment on time. Call them. You know why? Because if you call them, they write a note, and those companies would not send the notices to the credit rating authorities, and your name is not appeared yet you didn't pay. They will help you. They will work with you. You call them. I'm having X problem. I cannot pay now. However, next month I could give you help, and they give you plans to pay slowly the debt, helping you, because as long as you respond, they will not report your non-payment. And credit ratio is a number that tells how to pay or how bad you have paid. If you call them and make arrangements and take care, no matter how difficult is the problem, call them 10 times, they like it. And they will try to help you, because that's what they want to know, that you intend to pay. It could be later. So keep in mind the ideas of what the ratio should be. If you want to buy a home or buy a building, you should have at least 750 as a credit ratio. And you might be saying, oh God, I have 500. Don't worry. I started like that. I wrote the 500. And you know what I was doing? I was calling the bank every night, because sometimes you have paid something or put it automatic and the bank take it automatic and you didn't have enough money and suddenly it appeared the account with a negative balance. That will appear next day in your credit ratio. So I call to make sure that nothing has come that turn your balance into a credit or negative. And if I find any balance negative, next day I run to cover it. I run to make sure it's positive. You have to watch out, I feel, your credit rating like the most precious possession. Because listen, all those people that own buildings, they do it all with loans. They borrow the money. And when you go to the bank to apply for a loan to buy your home or to the other programs available for buying home, that's one of the first things they ask you. Can I give me your social security so we could call and get what is your credit ratio? And they will find it. Next point is that same credit ratio is three main companies who maintain those ratios. those companies do mistake like everybody else. And sometimes there's a bunch of items there that you say, I don't know that. How come that fall into my so periodically, at least once or twice a year, you could get the record for free because they charge you to get in your credit report. And you have to examine, read it. If you don't read enough, find your friend or your family person that's gonna work with you to read it and help you identify what is there that is not true. Send them letter immediately. They're supposed to eliminate it immediately. I don't know if you are aware that there are some companies saying that you owe them money and you even receive invoice. We have received this week invoices. I said, I have never buy from these people. Where I owe this money from? I call them. I don't owe you anything. That I haven't purchased from you. Stop immediately. And then I call the credit ratio and says, there is an invoice there. I never bought that, and send them in a written letter. If it's certified, the better because you have proof. They have to stop it and they have to take it out. You have to protect your credit ratio like your most precious possession, because it's not to have cash. It is to have acquisition power, even if it is with credit. For example, people take credit cards. I have had a motto in my life not to have credit card. I don't have them. Except a number of credit cards to maintain a high credit ratio. Why? Because the credit card charge you over 20% interest easy. They tell you 14 and they tell you 15. If you have paid everything perfect within the next 30 years, you never pay everything perfect. And then the rate go immediately to 20 and 24 and 29% too. So they are creating your bankruptcy because, they're adding, at the end, you're owing more than what you originally borrowed. So yes, get credit card, but don't use them if you don't have to. And if you use them, pay immediately, because if you pay within the same month, it never get accumulated in your record. That's what I do to maintain the credit. Key. Now let's go to the purchase of the building or the home. Do your research. Go to, now with the computer, there's a lot of information that you get free in the internet. Get who that company is, what are the alternatives, what programs there are in government to help you buy the home or the building. Right now, for example, for the businesses, there is Small Business Administration. They have so many programs that you wouldn't believe it. When you enter there, you say, but I didn't know this. They have programs with titles to help everyone in every occasion. We don't know about them. Yes, they come to our community. The politicians do a little meeting and invite you to come. And then they dictate lecture. You see, you don't know what they're talking about many times. You don't know the word. You need people to sit down with you and explain in black and white what every term means, how can you use it, and if not, make groups. If you could call me, or you could call many other people who are doing advice. I know one friend of mine who wrote just recently a book on credit. That little book has many advice, and I mark it all the book and I follow them like a Bible. So research, find out what are the programs available. One important point, the interest rate. Right now, the interest rate are 3-4%. Of course, remember, there is possibly a war in the horizon. And if that happens, the interests are going to go up fast. Also, people are talking of inflation. So this was a moment those people who wanted to buy homes that you have run to see they grab low interest. What low interest mean? There's some people who could get 4% or 3%. If it's pushing toward 6, 7, 8, already you get into dangerous levels, because that interest, if it's fixed, it applies for the rest of the life of the debt. And if you buy one of those with a 30-year mortgage, you're paying 8, 9% forever. And I know people that are paying 12%, and they're stuck. They're stuck because they don't ask for advice. For example, you don't have to stay in a mortgage. You could ask for friendly advice, and you could refinance. What refinance means? You have a mortgage. It's at 9%. Now the interest at 4%. You go to the bank. But remember, don't go to the bank if you have a credit ratio of 400, because they won't even listen. You cannot have, you must have at least 700 or more. Then you go, I want to refinance this debt. What does refinance means? They lend you money to pay back that loan that is at 9 or 10 or 11%, and give you a loan that now you pay 4%. You will see how your monthly payment go down, because the interest rate is half or less than half. And
Right. It's been cut by a lot.
exactly. Another factor is the number of years. Good alternative are when they give you 30 years to pay. Why? Because you have to pay small payments every month. I usually tell the group, if you pay rent, you pay mortgage. When they ask me, how I'm going to buy with what money? I say, if you pay rent, you pay mortgage. You're paying rent of 2,000 a month, 3,000 a month if it's a business, 4,000 a month. Buy the place, and you'll be paying 1,500 a month, because and it's yours. It's yours. So we have to feel comfortable owning. We have to want to own. And more so, we have to take the steps. Don't say mañana, mañana. I have seen people that for 3 years have been telling me, oh yeah, I'm studying it. Mañana I'm going to go up to the bank. And in 3 years after, they haven't purchased anything. No, no, no. You go to the internet, you research, you go to the bank, and don't go to only one bank. Because listen, the bank are not going to like me, but they're not serving you. They're serving, to me, those people who don't need the loans. I have told the banks that in their own face. I went the other day to make a loan, and the person was insisting, well, you're not making profit. You need profit. I said, listen, if I'll be making profit, I will need to borrow the money from you. So you are lending to the one who are making profit. You lend it to the wrong people. You're lending to the people that don't need. Because of course they want to make profit themselves. But you know what they're doing? They're taking your money, your social security check, you deposit it. Have you find out how much they pay you in the savings account? 1% or less. Then they take your money and lend it to people. How much they charge them? 12%? Is that fair? That is not fair.
That's not fair.
The banks are borrowing your money. That's what when you deposit, the banks are borrowing the money from you and only pay you 1%. And then when you borrow from them, you have to pay 12%, 13%, 14%, or they say, no, we cannot lend you. In the meantime, you continue depositing, you're lending them every day. So do a group that get together, and once a month, it could be once a week, discuss these items so you understand it. Even the people who are not doing businesses, buy house, pay rent, pay mortgage, do transactions. So they need to understand these items to understand how can they help. Maybe you don't have a business, but a group in your community has a business. You might decide to go and help them. You do this group, come. We're having a discussion of interest rate today. Come and listen, and we will help you understand what you're dealing with and how to do it better. For example,
That's
in
great.
the nonprofit corporation, it's very important that they discuss and make groups in the community. Why? Because the nonprofit corporation work with a board. That's very important. People think it's not important. It's very important. And most of us don't know how to be board member. They, oh no, I'm tired. No, I don't want to bother myself in the evening.
So
Please accept to be board, accept to cooperate. It's few meetings throughout the year, and those nonprofit corporations cannot operate without a board that meet, and especially help them to fundraise the money they need to operate, which come back services to your own community.
So thank you for that, Dr. Falú, with basically letting us know, listen, you've got to own and be comfortable in leadership roles. So before we shift to the second part where we discuss elements of the Bible and where the original information came from, are the Fannie Mae programs still available for first-time homeowners?
Which program?
Or any kind of programs like that?
Oh, yeah, there are many. Just Google programs for first-time owner. In the newspaper appear daily programs, workshops. There are some organizations that also send you messages with help and program that will help you buy your first home, your first building. Please do the research, call, go to the internet. You will be surprised how much information there is, and people that you could go visit them, sit down there, and they will explain to you the ABCs.
Okay, great. All right, awesome. Thank you, Dr. Falú.
Thank you.
So we are, and remember at the end, we're going to get her phone number so you can reach out to her and have, you can contact with her and get the ball rolling in whatever it is you and your little crew is going to do.
Can I say that I only
Okay.
15 minutes, because remember we were supposed to start at 4 and I'm being interviewed at 6 in another television station. So,
okay, so what time is it now?
it is
so
5.
we have, okay, all right, so we have 25 minutes left, guys. So if we can go through the Bible part and then also Santería, then we'll end on time, I promise.
Okay. Start?
Oh, yes, please. Yes. So
okay.
we were okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I was just saying, when we had spoken before about what we were going to speak about, you had mentioned about Moses and the Kemetic mystery systems and the teachers, and who were the people who really actually did all of the educating, and where the sources of some important Christian ideologies and doctrine actually comes from. So if you'd like to take over from there, maybe you can start with Moses, because we did talk about him a little bit.
Sure. Let me say this. These are not two separate topics. We were talking of empowerment, economic development, and finance. And now we talk of spirituality. They are joint topics. There cannot be strong spirituality if you don't have strong backup for solving your problems, your financial problems. You have peace of mind. You're taking care of the nutrition that is needed. You're taking care of the clothing. You're taking care of the housing. So they interact. So I want people to see that these complement each other. And in terms of the spirituality, also I want people to understand, this is just the beginning, because I hope we could talk in another moment and go deeper, that our people from Africa, people know that we were one of the first to develop the concepts of spirituality, extrasensory perceptions, called symbolism, called different ways of tapping the non-material, the non-biological, the non-tangible. For example, I always tell some of my group and students, if you take water and boil it, the water is there, you can touch it. And you put it, boil it, and then the water is not there. Did it disappear? Is it still there? It is still there. It's just change the format to a gas situation where you don't see it, but it's still there. So the first thing that I clarify is that we need to understand what the spiritual realm represents for our entities, our persons. And I don't know how many people believe, but I do believe that there is a spiritual side for each one of our entities. And that spiritual side exists from the moment we are born. And when we die, the spiritual entity continues. It's like when you boil the water and burn it and disappear, it's still there. The spirit is still there. But one of the things that we never understood or were taught was that the Africans were the first to develop conceptual understanding of the spiritual realm and everything that goes with it. There is a concept called mystery system. And people confuse mystery system because they feel, oh, mysterious, that's something spiritual. And in some of the churches have said, well, the spiritual thing is of the devil. They say it like that because they have told me to my face. And I said, well, you don't understand what is the spiritual realm, because the mystery system was at the time, we're talking 2000 years before Christ, was at the time the university of the time, the educational institution of the time. And during in the curriculum within the mystery system was studied everything from numbers, mathematics, chemistry, biology, sciences, and then it went to the non-material, symbolism, extrasensual concept. And if you go through some of the chapters or books of the Bible, you're gonna see that is revealing in terms of those different concepts. But one important thing is where those that mystery system was being implemented. It was in Egypt. What most people do not understand is that we're talking of black people, African people, because the Arabs came to Africa 800 years after Christ. We're talking 2000 years before Christ. And also that the black African developed those concepts, developed those schools. So the mystery system was like a school. And of course, like all schools, there are some people that are more dedicated, and the ministers were specialized in those areas there that they were developing. And the curriculum, you try to find the curriculum of the mystery system, it included everything from math, sciences, and spiritual stuff. But one of the personages that taught in the mystery system was Moses. Everybody remember the story that as a baby he was picked up in the river by the daughter of the Pharaoh, and he was raised in the Pharaoh, which was the king in Egypt. Remember, Black Africa we're talking about. Pharaoh grew and realized that he looked different. And when the from Canaan came the Hebrews, and there was hunger throughout the rest of the world, a lot of hunger. In Egypt, there was a lot of abundance because of the Nile River. I went to Egypt with Dr. Ben. I entered the pyramids, and we passed through the Nile, and you could see that the Nile on both sides is very black that earth because it's fed, it's nutritious. Anything you plant there generate fruits, generate food. And the people were coming down, and that's how the Hebrews first came. They were asking to the Egyptian, let us a space to be here because we're hungry. And of course, they say, yes, of course, have some space. And going fast because we don't have much time, it got to the point that remember that there was Moses healed a person at that time. That's the reality. Go to the Bible and find it. And he was being persecuted because he was going to be punished. And of course, he already have identified himself with the Hebrew people and told the Hebrew people, we're going to go away. Sometimes I go to the black churches and I hear the singing, let my people go. That people, the Hebrews, were not our people. Our people were the black Africans. But because we have learned what the whites developed in those books, they have interpreted. Remember that Europe didn't exist until 400 years after Christ. We're talking 2000 years before Christ. So when Europe developed, England, France, Spain, none of those people existed. It was the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire lasted 350 years after Christ. So before that, there was no England, there was no Spain, there was no France, there was no Italy. However, they have come because of the conquer, and I would call it another way because they came killing. They came and killed millions of blacks in Africa, millions of Indians in America, saying that they discovered. Those are facts. That's history. And if nobody can deny that that didn't exist. So Moses, who was a prophet, a teacher in the mystery system, and at that time, remember, everything was taught orally. There was no writing. One of the system, the first writing system was developed by the black, the hieroglyphic, because at that time it was Black Africa. The book of Dr. Ben says, Black Man of the Nile. I translated it to Spanish. The book of Dr. Ben also speak of African religions were the foundation of Western religion. I translated that to Spanish, 400 pages. Read it because it's a wealth of information. Then Moses went through the desert, was teaching orally. What was he teaching? The black mystery system, because that's what he was teaching back in Egypt. Of course, he doesn't enter in Canaan. It's Joshua. And Joshua in Canaan enters, Moses died, and then the people started developing the writing systems. And Joshua, with the rest, start putting together writings of the lessons that they were learning with Moses. What were those lessons? The Black African system of theology in reality. And of course, that developed into what is considered the Old Testament, because that was everything that took place before Christ. They interpret according to how they saw it. Remember, these were not black people, these were Hebrew people. It wasn't black people who wrote the Old Testament, it was Hebrew people once they entered into the new land of Canaan. We need, as black people, to read. We need to read book number 3 of the Bible. And you will see that in that book number 3, they give, it's supposed to emphasize ritual. What you should do if you're sick? Well, take a bird and pass it around you. Isn't that the Santería? What would you do if to remedy X problem? Oh, but for that you could kill a chicken. And that's Santería. But why? Because Santería is Black African religion. And they, believe it or not, in the book of Dr. Ben explained how Christianity developed from African religion and how Hebrew also developed from African religion. And even the Muslim, a lot of it developed from African religions. So I'm going to leave it here because it's already, I have to go to this other engagement. But I would like us to agree for one session where we continue with specific examples of what is in each one of those old chapters, because they have told us that we came savages, that the blacks came savages, and when they came, the blacks were the one who invented writing, the one who invented architecture, the one who invented construction, the one who invented mathematics, the one who invented biology. Almost every philosophy, every writing, including Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, you could trace it. I have that information. How you trace the Plato content to what philosopher in the mystery system, and the Socrates, and the Aristotle, and then even the Masons. I'm a Mason. See, I have been very blessed. I'm a Mason. And even the ritual of the Mason describe how King Solomon stole the secrets of the black of how to build temples, to build his temples in Egypt. The people who deny, ask them to show you that that's not true. And I not need to go now. Any questions?
Falú, yes. So I just want to say thank you for being our guest today. And thank you for everybody who was patient on Tuesday and patient today. We had some technical difficulties, but I promise you, Dr. Falú, when I bring you back, it might be in Anika and Jabari's backyard. I haven't even told them yet.
Yes.
But that way we'll be together, or I can go to your foundation. We'll figure it out, but we have to have her back. And just like she said, to go over the specific proof. So I know you have to run. Dr. Falú, thank you, and enjoy your next interview.
And the telephone, 646-246-8302.
So 646-246
8302.
8302. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. So everyone else who's watching and following me, y'all are rocking with me hard. Thank you. I have no idea why all of a sudden I've had these technical difficulties. Like I wish I had an answer for that. I do not. I will be figuring that out, but I do have alternatives, and I'm definitely going to have her back because we had a longer conversation about, you know, some of the specifics that she alluded to, okay, or not alluded to, but mentioned. And so we want to go through specifics because she was saying, you know, non-African people get credit for this. Here's the proof. It's right here. You know, people think this happened. Here's the proof there. You know, he learned in Kemet. Here's the proof here. And so the conversation we had was very thorough, and it's something that you should definitely come back for. And then also, she talks about Santería and how that practice is not that much different than what she was mentioning earlier today, like sacrifices that you see in the Bible. It's in Santería as well. All right. So Dr. Falú is very intelligent. She's got this financial information. She connects finances and spirituality. We're going to have her back. We ain't going to have no technical problems. Okay. So thank you for rocking with me. I really appreciate this. And I will see you next Tuesday for a Tuesday Talk. Have a great rest of the week because it's Thursday. So it's really the weekend because people are probably off work. At least they are on the East Coast. Okay. I'll talk to you soon. Have a good evening. Shem Matep, and go forth in peace.